Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie The Instigators. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. The Instigators is a heist comedy film directed by Doug Liman, written by Chuck Maclean and Casey Affleck. It stars Casey Affleck and Matt Damon. It's basically about two robbers who must go on the run with the help of one of their therapists after a theft doesn't go as planned. So, as far as what I liked about the movie, I liked Matt Damon as Rory and Casey Affleck as Cobby. I think they had a really good sort of chemistry together. Obviously, they've worked together before, and Damon is good friends with Ben Affleck, who's Casey's brother. Hong Chau was always good. She was here as Dr. Donna Rivera. She was great. I really liked her. She's always fun. I was like seeing stuff. Walter Hauser shows up. He's a big deal. He's going to be in the Chris Farley movie that's coming out soon. So yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff lately. He's always good to see and stuff. I like Michael Stuhlbarg as Mr. Bugsian. Ving Rhames was really good in this as Frank. He was very intimidating and scary, as he always is. Alfred Molina, of course, is always great, and Toby Jones is good as well. And Ron Perlman, I love him. He's always good, and I liked Andre DeShields as Mr. Kelly. So overall, really great, really stacked cast, and this was a lot of where I didn't expect to see all these people. And I'm like, oh wow, hey, there's that guy, there's that guy, there's. So that was really cool. Really, really good cast. I thought it was really good. I really like the cinematography in this. It was by Henry Brown. He did Nanny McPhee, Legend of Tarzan, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3, Suicide Squad, The Flash. Yeah, there's some really cool shot choices in here. Well, Doug Liman's the director. He's got a very visual kind of style. And so, yeah, a lot of cool like fisheye lenses and fun camera movements and stuff like that. I enjoyed seeing that. I like the music in this as well. It's by Christoph Beck. He's done a bunch of stuff for Disney. He did the Muppets Most Wanted, Frozen 1 and 2, all the Ant-Man movies, WandaVision, Hawkeye, Agatha All Along, Free Guy. So he's done a lot of stuff. I like the music in this. It was very cool and interesting and different, and it really kind of fit the mood for this. And I really like the soundtrack. We had a lot of good stuff in here. We had Kiss, Shout It Out Loud. We had The Temptations, Ball of Confusion, Downtown by Petula Clark, Baby Please Don't Go by them, Jump Around by House of Pain, and they ended with Something in the Air by Thunderclap Newman, which is where I assume the movie gets its title from. Call out the Instigators because there's something in the air. That was great. Yeah, I really liked the soundtrack in this. I really liked all the song choices. There's a funny bit where they're driving in the car and Downtown is playing and he's like, just change the station. I didn't want to hear that song. It was really funny. I really liked that song though, so it worked for me. I like the character introductions. We start out with seeing Matt Damon as he's talking to his therapist, and we kind of find out a bit about what's going on with him. He needs a very specific amount of money. For what reason, we don't quite know right away. Again, this is a spoiler review, so I will be talking spoilers for this. And then we go over to Casey Affleck, who has got a kid blowing into the breathalyzer on his motorcycle so he can drive it, which is I think a really funny introduction. It kind of lets you know who the character is right away. You know what's going on. Like these are dirtbags. These are or he's especially a dirtbag. This is a bad dude. So yeah, really good stuff. I really like the characterizations too. Right away, you kind of figure these guys out. Like Rory's always asking all these questions and he's taking notes and everything else. And Cobby's always kind of just joking around and doing his thing. And so, yeah, we kind of see and they've got a good dynamic together. I always like that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of really good jokes in here. A lot of stuff made me laugh, mostly Casey Affleck stuff. But he's got a bit where he's like shot and he's laying on the couch and he's doing like a fake conversation because Matt Damon's not contributing. He's like, "Oh, I want to be a teacher. Oh yeah, I get to play with kids, get summers off." Like, all that was really funny to me. There's a lot of recurring gags too, like, "Oh, everybody's a hero in this town," or like Cobby getting shot a couple times. Like all that stuff really worked for me. There's a lot of actually really funny stuff, a lot of stuff that made me laugh out loud. I actually don't remember them so much now, but there was quite a few times. I'd say a good 5 or 6 times that I laughed out loud at this movie. So I think the humor really, really worked. It was not only funny, but also just fun. I think the movie was just pretty fun throughout, and I had a fun time watching it. I really enjoyed it. Also, I think that there's some pretty tense scenes in there. I think the first scene with Scalvo getting shot was pretty tense, and the entire scene where they've got the Toby Huss is being held hostage in the vault, like all of that was pretty good, pretty tense. So there's a couple scenes like that really worked. I really like the car chases. Doug Liman is good at that kind of stuff. But yeah, when they're going down and the cops come and I'm like, okay, they have to go backward through the alley. I've seen that before. But then the cops smash into them and the airbags go off and everything. And like, yeah, it was great. I really liked that. There was a couple of, and then the sort of scene at the end with Ving Rhames' character chasing him down in his big armored vehicle that they call a tank. It's not a tank, but they call it one. I can see why you would think it's a tank, but doesn't even have tracks. But either way, that was fun. Some fun chases in there. I feel like the movie in a lot of ways just felt like a throwback. It felt like kind of like a 70s movie, but also like a 90s movie. Just like the kind of movie that I don't know, I feel like they don't really make anymore. They haven't made in a while. And it's noir, I would say. At least the beginning of the movie is very noir. You got, these kind of dirtbag guys who are don't have a lot going for them and don't really have a lot of options. And so they decide to, commit this heist and it doesn't go well. I also appreciated that Damon's character was kind of a relatively new twist on it. It wasn't like the, oh, this is my last job kind of thing. This is the guy who's not a criminal at all, a guy who's, stayed out of it, but just needs this money so he can, pay off his kids, what do you call it? Money for his kid. So yeah, I enjoyed that. And I like the ending. I like that we got sort of a happy ending. We saw him, he shows up to the hockey game with his kid. And I thought that was a nice scene too, where Casey Affleck's like, the money doesn't matter. Kids don't care about that. They just care that you're there. And I think it's a good point. I think it's mostly true. Yeah. And there's a kind of a funny little mid-credit scene too, where again, a callback to the like, oh, you got to have boots joke. And they're like, they should have had boots. Like, that was pretty funny. It worked for me. There's a lot of good stuff there. As far as what I disliked about it though, I didn't like Jack Harlow as Scalvo. And again, he's not a professional actor, so I can't really get too upset at him. But yeah, and I think I know he was in that the White Men Can't Jump movie a while back. That I thought he was okay in that, but in this one, he's acting against Matt Damon and Casey Affleck and Ving Rhames. Well, I don't know if he's in a scene with very good actors, and so he kind of stood out to me as just not being quite as good. So I was glad that he died fairly quickly. And again, nothing against him. I thought he was fine for someone who's not an actor, but he definitely, it wasn't really up to the same level as the other guys. There's some pretty bad CGI in here. I think some of the car crashes and especially the explosions and the fire could have been a little better. I mean, this is sort of a made for streaming type movie, so I get it, but I think there's a misspelled sign too at the very beginning. I might be wrong, but when they first go into like the kitchen, it looked like the sign, I forget what it said, but it looked like it was misspelled. I might be wrong. It was quick, but I'm like, hey, that's not, I don't know about that. There's just a lot of silliness in this movie, a lot of stuff that just kind of seems a little implausible, I guess, or just doesn't really make sense. Like the stuff with the bracelet was kind of like, okay, I feel like he wouldn't have written that down, and yeah, I don't know, like why on the bracelet. Just I understand why you need it for the plot, but it was kind of like I said, the explosion, the multiple explosions that were like, hey, what do you think that smell is? And then like they blow up both the guy's house and his bar, I think. So like, yeah, Mr. Kelly's having a rough day, but he did say he has insurance, so that's something. But yeah, and then like them just even getting away with it at the end kind of seemed a little cheap to me and a little silly, just like not realistic, something like a kid would write or somebody very young who doesn't really quite understand how the world works. In a way, kind of like Trap, the movie I reviewed last week. And in some ways, I wish it would have just stayed a heist movie, or it would have just kind of stayed the way it was in the beginning when it was kind of small and tense and there was just, they were stuck in the situation. All of a sudden, the mayoral candidate lost, and everything's going wrong. There's more people than they expected. Like all of that was really interesting. And then once they it built a little too big into, and then they're breaking into City Hall and like they're doing all this. I kind of wish it would have stayed a little smaller and wouldn't have gone so all over the place and wouldn't have gone all so big. And I do think it's hard not to compare this to similar movies like The Town, which was directed by Casey's brother Ben, or like Killing Them Softly, which I think are probably better made movies and a little bit more clever, I think. That being said, this movie was probably funnier than those. I thought this movie was really funny and I enjoyed that. So then that movie is directed by Doug Liman. He did Swingers, Go, The Bourne Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Edge of Tomorrow, Roadhouse, the Roadhouse remake from recently. It was written by Chuck Maclean, who did the TV show City on a Hill, which was on Showtime with Kevin Bacon. I never watched it. It looked interesting, though. And Casey Affleck wrote this as well. He also wrote Light of My Life, I'm Still Here, and Jerry. I did see Jerry and I'm Still Here, and I enjoyed those. I haven't seen Light of My Life. Wasn't sure on the budget or the box office on this one. I couldn't find it anywhere, but this is, again, sort of a straight to streaming type movie. So it's hard to find that kind of stuff. Rotten Tomatoes in this one, critics are not, 41% of them are liking it. The other, whatever, 59% are not as much, but the audience is liking a little bit more at 71%. So yeah, I think I definitely liked it. So I'm definitely more on the audience side here. That's not exactly how it works, but I feel like I need to address, there were some allegations against Affleck, which is probably why he hasn't been working as much as he was in the past. But yeah, while he was working on the I'm Still Here movie, which with Joaquin Phoenix, there was a woman who was a producer that made some allegations about inappropriateness, which sound pretty valid. And so, yeah, and there were some concerns because that was around the time where he was up for the Oscar for that movie that I don't remember what it was called. So yeah, it is hard to watch that kind of thing and to sort of separate the actor from the the artist from the art, I suppose. And I know like I'll always make fun of, Marky Mark, but he's a terrible person and a terrible actor. With Affleck, it's a little hard because I actually think he's a good actor, and I think he's a talented guy in some ways. So I don't know. Yeah, I like Woody Allen movies, even though he's also kind of a terrible person. So it's hard to say. It's hard to enjoy it and be, oh, he's funny in this, but also like, oh, he's kind of a dirtbag, terrible person. So I don't know. I'll be out. This is an Apple movie. They did have a limited theatrical release, but it's kind of their thing. So I guess it's more of a prestige thing, or just get people to subscribe. So thanks to my friend for letting me use her account. I appreciate it. As far as scoring this one, I really like this movie. It was fun. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. If I watch it again, maybe some of the cracks would be a little more obvious and I wouldn't appreciate it as much, but this was a really fun movie and a really good time. And I think I would definitely watch it again. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.